Hi. Welcome to the 2026 Dalhousie Horrocks National Leadership Lecture. My name is Mike Smith. I serve as Dean for the Faculty of Management at Dalhousie. Wherever you are in the world joining us, thank you. Whether you're watching live or recording, very happy to have you with us for the Horrocks National Leadership Lecture. I will acknowledge the lands on which Dalhousie University sits, no matter where in the world you're joining us from. This is where Dalhousie is. Dalhousie University operates in the unceded territories of the Mi'kmaq, Wolastoqey, and Passamaquoddy peoples. These sovereign nations hold inherent rights as the original peoples of these lands, and we each carry collective obligations under the peace and friendship treaties. Section 35 of the Constitution Act 1982 recognizes and affirms Aboriginal and treaty rights in Canada. We recognize that African Nova Scotians are distinct people whose histories, legacies, and contributions have enriched that part of Mi'kmaq known as Nova Scotia for over 400 years. This is one of my favorite events of the year. I love all of this type of event. I think it's the highest purpose of the university to put cool ideas into the world. And when we can do that by inviting alumni to share some of the cool work they're doing, I think it's just phenomenal. It's also a wonderful way to showcase leadership. I think we've long moved past thinking that libraries are places where books live. Libraries serve vital roles in their community, and librarians serve vital roles in their communities. And so no matter what type of information you work with, no matter what you do in the world, what we do in terms of connecting people to community and to information and to resources is absolutely vital work. And hearing about that at these types of lectures, I think is a valuable time for all of us, whether you're current students or alumni, friends, or people who just love D&D, and whatever you are, welcome. I will turn this over to Sandra Toes, who's the Director for Information Programs here in the Faculty of Management, to do all of the hard work. Deans, as you know, should not be trusted to do anything of import, and so we bring in the actual people to do the real work. Over to you, Sandra.
Thank you, Mike. Another great demonstration of leadership there. Thank you so much. This is also one of my favorite annual events within the calendar here. And I just wanted to take a moment before we start to remember, because we are here both because of and to honor Norman Horrocks. The Dalhousie Horrocks National Leadership and accompanying lecture, the fund and the accompanying lecture were established in 2007 to honor Dr. Norman Horrocks for his outstanding leadership in the field of librarianship. And when we talk about leadership, I can't even begin to explain all the ways that Dr. Norman Horrocks was in fact a leader. He showed leadership across North America, Australia, and Europe. Over the several decades, Dr. Horrocks, who was the former director of what was then the School of Information Management, which is now the Department of Information Science, he was also Dean of the Faculty of Management and pursued a distinguished career, a very active involvement in professional associations in the United Kingdom, Cyprus, Australia, and the United States and Canada. His many, many contributions, for which he received local, national, and international recognition, have advanced the field and the careers of countless individuals. Those are the facts. But for anyone who knew Dr. Horrocks, he was so much more than those facts. He was actively involved in professional associations around the globe. And when I first started going to conferences, everywhere I went, people knew Dalhousie because of Dr. Horrocks. He advanced the field and the careers of so many people. He was in many ways the guardian of our ALA accredited degree here at Dalhousie, and he was a foundational part of the Faculty of Management. For those who were privileged to know and work with him, Dr. Horrocks was the program. He was the part of the team that ensured we received our first ALA accreditation. He recruited many of the key faculty members at Dal. He was consistently our strongest advocate for the field and the need for the degree within Dalhousie and the region. As we look around at the world today, we recognize the need for the qualities that Dr. Horrocks had more and more. And as we work with the next generation of leaders in this field, the qualities Norman embodied remain central to this profession, especially when, and I'm thinking of this year, but I've been able to say this for the past couple of years. In a time of much change, concern, and unrest, the important skills that Dr. Horrocks brought forward are just critical. He was truly a social networker, a bridge builder, a connector, long before any of us were using social media. He found a way to authentically connect people in information, which in many cases involved linking us to each other. How many times I would go somewhere and people would tell me stories about how Dr. Horrocks had introduced them to someone or directly helped them in their career. He built community and was famous for things like his Friday fireside chats. He was endlessly curious and loved engaging with students, faculty, and professionals. He remembered everyone's names, a trick I still have not learned, but more than that, their interests and their passions. We are at a pivotal time in society where the key values of this profession need to guide the way. The legacy of Dr. Horrocks is to shine a light on the way forward, focusing on embracing us all. The exciting thing about this event is that it supports both the lecture, which brings someone here to give us their expertise, but also a scholarship. So today we are going to celebrate both aspects of this. First, we will have the lecture, and then we will have the award. It's very exciting to me as someone who's been hosting this event for over 10 years, that now when we look around to see leadership and to see who we want to bring to our community, we often find that those people are our alumni. And this is the case with Lucas. Originally from Nova Scotia, Lucas Maxwell grew up on Nintendo, comic books, and Dungeons and Dragons. He has been working for libraries for over 15 years and is passionate about providing safe and welcoming library spaces for everyone. In 2017, he was named the UK's School Librarian of the Year, and in 2024, he was awarded a British Empire Medal for his services to libraries. His debut young adult novel, A Million Tiny Missiles All at Once, will be published by Chicken House Books in April 2026. He is proud to be a neurodivergent writer and grateful to be adding his voice to the world of literature. He currently resides in the UK with his amazing family and Biscuit, the chocolate lab. Just a few logistical things before we begin. Please do submit your questions through Facebook or YouTube as you think of them while the talk is going on, and we will address them at the end of the presentation. Just a reminder that if you're submitting them through YouTube, you must be logged into an account to submit a question. And now I will welcome and turn things over to Lucas.
Hi, thanks, Dr. Toast. Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for listening and being here today. I'm very honored to be here. It's surreal to me that I've been asked to do this. And I want to thank Dalhousie and everyone involved for the opportunity. There's a lot of people behind the scenes working that maybe you don't see, making this all possible. So I want to make sure that everybody gets recognition for that, and thank you. And I can remember being at Dalhousie at the library degree program, and was in Dr. Toews' government documents class. So it's a huge memory flood here, and I had the opportunity to take a course from Dr. Horrocks, and it was it was amazing. He was very passionate, funny, and an amazing person. So to be here today and talking about Dungeons and Dragons is amazing to me. I never thought this would happen. It's D&D has become this phenomenon anyway, of course, and I'll talk a little bit about it. But for me, it's kind of been as bizarre, amazing, in an amazing way, program that is affected my life positively in many ways. I'll go through it all, but it's been kind of surreal. And again, I'm just extremely grateful. So what I'm going to talk about today is how I've tried to implement D&D in the school library that I currently work at in London, in the UK, and how it's built this kind of sense of community in and around the school and outside of the school. So just going to move my slides along here. Hopefully it'll work. Hopefully you can see that. Maybe not. Sorry, guys. I think I can move it along. So, not going to work. Let me just move it along here. I apologize. Maybe it's not going to work for me today. So what I'm going to talk about a little bit of, Sandra already told you about me, but I'll go through a little bit. I am originally from Weymouth, Nova Scotia, and I attended Acadia University to do a Bachelor of Arts, and took a history degree, and then eventually ended up at Dalhousie to do the library degree, and I loved it. I loved every second of it, and it really changed my whole life taking the library degree. I was kind of lost before that. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and it really did change my life, and I'm really grateful for it. There we go. We should be able to move it there. Sandra's already talked a lot about this, so I won't bore you with all this stuff. But I wanted to talk about working at the as a teen services librarian at Halifax Public Libraries, where I worked at Halifax North and Tantallon. And working at Halifax North, if there's anybody currently watching this who is in the library program or is working, to be a librarian, I cannot recommend working in a public library enough. Especially when I was there working at Halifax North was a kind of a life-changing experience, and I was able to meet amazing people and get involved in all kinds of great community initiatives, and it really was amazing. I was only there for a year because it was a maternity cover, but it was life-changing to me, to be honest, because I worked with a lot of teens. And a lot of teens who I guess were at the time labeled as at risk and things like that, and it was just amazing, and I was really grateful for that opportunity. So, yeah, I won't go through all the other. Dr. Toes already went through all the other stuff, but I do have a shameless plug here. I do have a novel out in April that will be available in the U.S., hopefully in Canada in 2027. But I won't bore you with all that stuff. But there they are there. So Let's Roll on the left is a book about setting up D&D in your library, and then Roll for Adventure is pre-made adventures for your library. If you're a librarian, I met a lot of librarians as I was talking about D&D, just talking about it, who were like, I wish I had time to set it up. I wish I had, it is very overwhelming. It can be very overwhelming, but these books that I've written, I've tried to take that feeling away, I guess. So hopefully that's what I've achieved. And then there's my young adult novel on the right there. So basically, I will talk about what D&D is. I guess I'm assuming people do know. I won't go through the entire history of it, but if you are maybe unsure, I shouldn't assume everyone knows what it is. Essentially, it's a tabletop role-playing game where you assume the role of a character. There's a person in charge called the Dungeon Master or Game Master, and they present to the players a series of challenges and scenarios where they then have to interact using dice, rolling different sided dice to interact with the environment. So that's the gist of it, but it's much more than that. Like, I realized it was much more than that. So as a kid, it was hard to play in rural Nova Scotia. It was hard to find groups, but my brother introduced it to me through different books and things like that, and then got to play with some kind of older kids, and it was mind blowing to me. And I was always in the world of it, but never got to play it fully until maybe quite a few years later. So but in the library. So it's how we launched it. Initially, it was 100% student-led, and the impact of Stranger Things really cannot be ignored, because when that show launched, streams of kids. So I should say that I currently work as a school librarian at Glenthorne High School in South London, and it's ages 11 to 19. There's about 1,800 students in the school. So for me, that's probably 6 times the number of people who resided in the town that I grew up in. Maybe, I don't know, but a lot of people. So to go here and be at the school and to meet all these different people from different areas of the world was a really amazing experience, and I'm again very grateful for it. And when Stranger Things hit, students were coming into the library in droves, wanting to know about it, about D&D and things like that. And I hadn't watched it, but if there was any teachers or anyone who works with youth in the audience, you'll know that watching TV shows or getting in watching these things that are in the zeitgeist is like a form of like working from home. You have to kind of get to know these things, and it's good to know them so you can have conversations and make relevant programs and things like that. And I was like, man, why don't I start a Dungeons and Dragons program? It was very odd to me that I hadn't done it before that. I had been at the school about 3 years, and I had run a few things in Tantallon and Halifax North that were D&D based. They didn't really take off as much as I'd hoped they would, but in the school, of course, you've got this built-in audience. You're not spending all your energy getting people in. You're in a build. You've got the students are there. So initially it was all student-led, and I had this whiteboard in the library where I would ask questions. I put like a question up a week, and students can answer. It is a risk. You don't know what you're going to get. But I asked, should we start a Dungeons and Dragons club? And it was just these, yes, no, and like the yes side, of course, was completely full. So bought the starter kit. I recommend anyone to buy it if you're unsure. It's a really, really cost-effective way to get started. And they launched it immediately, and they took over. They started it, and it was really, really popular. But very small, 6 students playing it to begin with, and I was kind of just letting them use the space. And as things happen, some of those students kind of drifted off, and they kind of started to fall apart. And I was like, there was kind of core kids who really wanted to stay with it, so I was like, I'll take it over. And, I have negative free time. I'll take it over. And I did this, and it really did change kind of like how I viewed many things. It's hard to kind of get my head around it, to be honest, to discuss it, but it's blown up since then, kind of exponentially. I've got staff involved. There's tons of splinter groups. So it's basically run in my library every single day, but not by me, but by other students, like older students. And it is a challenge, but there's so many students who want to get involved in it that it's just a fantastic way to bring people together. And I'll explain, how I started to like collect information just in my own interest, saying there's something kind of more to this here than your generic board game or video game. Not that there's anything wrong with them, but I felt like there was something more to it. So it's now pretty much run every single day. And let me just move along. So then for a few years we carried on, but then we got a picture there, but COVID hit, as everybody knows. And we went in here in the UK, we went into severe lockdown. The entire country was locked down, but our school was still running lessons every day via Microsoft Teams. And therefore, I was still running library lessons via this kind of method. And it was really hard, as you can imagine. Anyone who was doing anything remotely, it was really hard. It was scary, odd time. And I had this core group of like 7 students, And I was like, do you want to run D&D anyway? And essentially it was a resounding yes. So I had no video run. It was just every single day we would play D&D using online dice rolling system. And it was just Microsoft Teams, no video, complete theater of the mind. I would sometimes post like images on the screen of like where they were or who they were interacting with. But what happened then, I started to, I realized like how much it meant to them, the game. And it's basically storytelling. And I was writing weekly recap notes for them. They were writing notes. They were writing these really intricate, because nobody had anything. We didn't have anything to do. So it was like they were writing their own backstories, tons and tons of information. And what I was seeing just as like, I should mention, I feel like it's a therapeutic tool, but it should never replace actual therapy, of course. But I realized that they were kind of expressing their frustrations and fears and anxieties through their characters. And it was just me as like, I have zero zero medical qualification, but I was I could see it. If I could see it, then surely somebody else was seeing this as well. So I just started to Google therapists in like different parts of the world, and I would email. I just was doing it in my own interest. I was like, is anybody doing this? And I got in touch with 5 or 6 different psychologists, therapists, and they were like, oh yeah, we're using D&D as a form of therapy 100%. And so I asked if they would want to be interviewed, and it ended up culminating into the book Let's Roll. And also I should have mentioned this, terrible PR person for myself, but I have another book coming out soon with Iowa Press in the US, and it's essentially all about D&D, how it is a therapeutic tool, especially for neurodivergent players. So hopefully people will find something useful in that. I really enjoyed writing it, but we never missed a day. I think they would have played on Christmas Day if I had said it. I think we played right up to be like the day before Christmas Eve. It was amazing, and I had a campaign that it was like a pre-made campaign, but you have to do a lot of work as a DM, and I was putting in all this time in it, and was really getting a lot out of it from myself as well. And that was the other thing. I realized how much I was getting out of it as a form of almost therapy, anxiety reduction. Just I'll go through all the things that it helped me with, and then help the other students with as well. So once we got out of the lockdown, it was I started to speak to other schools about it, how they were using it and promoting it on social media. And I started to get all kinds of feedback from librarians and teachers saying, I wish I could run it. And that's what kind of culminated in the book, I guess. And I started to interview people, outreach other schools, gathering feedback from students and staff. And I created this like website called Bookshelves and Bugbears, which is still up and running, which is basically just resources that I've found and that I've created and things like that. What I found once we got back was that they were more than the interest in it had exploded. And what I also found was that I would be the DM for 7 students, and we would have 25 kids watching. And it was like, so I would ask them, the people who were watching it, did you want to play? Did you want to get involved? And they would usually say no. They just wanted to watch this bizarre game, strange, fun, weird game. And teachers started to ask questions about it, and they started to get involved. And I decided to take a chance, and I ran this Saturday Dungeon Con, I called it, in the library. And again, it was on a Saturday in the school, and I have no clue if people are going to show up. And there were about 120 kids who came. It was like a one-shot adventure that was 4 hours long, and different dungeon masters, older kids, as you see on the photo there. I recruited our, what we call in the UK, sixth form, and that's the students who are in, they've in year 12 and year 13, so they're 16 plus, and they're writing their own material. But on a Saturday, sunny Saturday in June, we had over 100 kids in there, and I had like games and not games, but prizes and food and things like that. Food's always number one. But I was really collecting all this information, going, okay, there's something here. This is bizarre, not bizarre, but it's kind of become its own thing. And there are people probably listening who've been like, yeah, we've been running it for 20 years in our library, and of course we knew this. But I think for me, I was surprised because I had been running programs, and I've been running programs for teens in libraries for many years, over 15 years now, and I've never had a program that has had this much retention value, where I had students, so that young man standing there in the middle of the screen, and the man next to him, who are out of the school now, they're in the university. They started playing when they were 12, and they didn't stop until they finished school when they were 17. And I never had a program in the school or in a public library that kept kids going that long. And the other thing about it was it's this kind of like great equalizer. So you've got, when I was in high school, of course, this was like a different era, the 80s and 90s, not high school, but like in junior high or whatever. When you were like 11, you would never hang around a 17-year-old. That is social death. You would never go near them, even though we were in the same building. But here we have in the library, in the school, they've become friends, and like close-knit friends. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But it like tight-knit, really close friends, and that talk about lots of different things. And the other thing here in the UK, and I'm sure this is all everywhere, there's a crisis with reading, or they call it a crisis anyway, with reading for pleasure, getting kids involved in reading. And the thing that I always talk about when I talk about Dungeons and Dragons is that there's a lot of kids in that group, in our groups. You might, if you just randomly stopped one of them in the hallway in the school, like, what do you think, and ask them, what do you think about reading? They would say, oh, it sucks. I hate it. But I guarantee you, they're in that library when I open it at 7:15 in the morning, and they have that player's handbook out, the monster manual out, and they are doing a ton of reading. It's the absolute huge amount of reading and creative writing. It has created this little group, this massive group of writing geniuses. And there we go. It's a social game, so that's another thing. It doesn't use screens, of course, even though I do play weekly with some amazing people every week online using a screen. In the school setting, there are no screens. We don't allow any phones in our school. I won't go into that. That's another presentation for another time. But we don't allow phones, and I'm very grateful that our school doesn't allow any phones at all. And they will play games like D&D, and there's no screens involved. There's no because I believe that it's killed their attention span, etc. Again, a rant I'll do at another time. But this game is extremely social, and that can be a huge benefit to people, especially talking about COVID, post-COVID, students who are really, really struggling. And for kids who feel isolated in a big school, this game can help them navigate many different things. And something that I noticed is that it helped combat loneliness 100%. And I feel like it's a game that brings people together in a very, very unique way, in a very powerful way. So it doesn't use screens. So this is like a little side note. It has created these different programs and events that I do in the library, like maps and mindfulness. I call it Monday maps and mindfulness. I don't know why I call it that, but it's just that. It's on Monday, thankfully. But essentially, I decided to do into kind of a desperation where I was caught, where I needed to create something really quick. I was like, let's just draw maps, D&D style maps. And I'm lucky I have a big screen in the library, and I brought this YouTube video up of this guy just doing a fantasy map, and they love it. So it's like, it's mindfulness. When you've got 30 students sitting around the library drawing maps, relaxing, eating lunch. It just seems like it seems very like they're just drawing, but they are getting away from maybe a day where they've had a horrible situation, maybe period 1, period 2 or whatever, right straight through, or maybe they're just having a rough week or whatever. And they know that they can come in on a Monday afternoon and just draw and listen to, I put on like ambient music, like not too, like, I don't know, not too cheesy or whatever, but they do like it. Of course, there's all these requests that have, but I just put on like relaxing music, and they just sit and draw maps, and there's a masterpiece there. I did that one, so that's why I called it a masterpiece. It's terrible, but there's one, and I really enjoy it. I think it's just something that has just evolved into a situation where students they know that they can come in and be themselves and relax. And it's just an interesting thing to me that these little splinter groups have all evolved. I'm going to talk about how it builds empathy. Okay. You are in D&D, you are literally putting yourself in the shoes of another race, gender, or species, or anything. And yes, it's a fantasy game. But when the students put themselves in these roles, I can often see them trying to incorporate the backstories that they've written in the characters' lives. And if you put effort into it and run a well-made campaign, they will take it seriously, that they've created this character that means a lot to them. And that's the other thing. I don't know if anyone's thinking of running a game, a D&D style game in their library or whatever, but when you are the dungeon master, I should point out your job. I think there's a misconception that your job is to, kill the characters. It's not. It's to cheer them on. Your job is to cheer them on when they succeed, and your job is to provide them with challenges. And if the dice don't roll their way, that's just it. But I'm going to talk about that in a minute. What the dice going the wrong way, but it builds empathy not just for their characters that they've created, but around each other. Okay, it's something that's extremely important, especially with younger players, in my opinion, when they come to the school age 11. It teaches them empathy, but also frustration management. And what I mean by that, it's like it teaches them patience as well. What I'm seeing this is my personal opinion. It's not like I'm not a scientist here, but when students are coming to the library when they're in year 7, I find that they're coming from a situation where they're playing a lot of games that are just this kind of like endless loop of reward activation. I don't know what to call it, but it's usually first-person shooter games, Fortnite-style games, where there's no end to it. It's just an endless loop. And once they get into a thing like D&D, they realize, they have to like wait their turn. This is going to be like a slow burn, this game. They're going to have to wait their turn, and they're going to have to work together. I don't allow player versus player in the game unless the story calls for it, because it just ends up in, as you can imagine, chaos and hurt feelings and stuff like that. But they're kind of conditioned, in my opinion, to play these games, this style of games, and it breaks that kind of cycle, in my opinion. Once they start to realize it becomes something different for them. So it builds empathy for the characters and for the people around them, and it's really quite effective, in my opinion. There's many different long-term friendships as well. Long-term benefits, I should say. It creates long-term friendship groups. As I said, I've seen these groups go from age 11, 12 through to later teenage years, and simply stick together, not just in the library, but I see them outside. And I've had parents and I've had these students tell me that their friendship groups have been created because of D&D. So I know that it has these great benefits. So we talked about frustration tolerance. So they learn that mistakes are a good thing. And what I mean by that is, we like to, here in the UK especially, I'm sure everywhere else, we like to tell kids that, mistakes build resilience and it is important to make mistakes, etc. But at the same token, we tell them absolutely do not make mistakes, do not fail these exams. And I find that very frustrating. What D&D tells you is that you can fail and there's no real consequence. It doesn't matter. And then actually, if you have a good dungeon master, so in the game, again, if you're hopefully I don't want to sound condescending or anything, but if you don't know the game, you roll I should have had one, that would have been nice. If you roll the 20-sided dice and you roll a 20, the highest, it's like the dungeon master has to reward you doubly. It's like the best you can get. If you roll a natural 1, it's a critical failure, and you have to not punish, but you have to create some kind of failure scenario. And honestly, I just ran this game, so I'm 4 hours ahead of you guys if you're in Nova Scotia. But 5 hours ago, I was playing D&D with a group of 11, 12-year-olds, and they were trying to in the school library, and they were trying to convince these what I called like yak folk. They're like talking like yaks. I can't believe I'm saying this stuff. The words coming out of my mouth. But they were trying to convince them to let them go, let go of these prisoners, blah blah blah. And they were just trying to, like, the kid, they're 11-year-olds, so they were like dancing around. They're trying to dance around. And I was like, roll this. They're rolling to convince these creatures that they were good. So they rolled, and he rolled a natural 1, and like the whole table erupted in laughter, because they know that I'm not going to kill their characters off because of this, or they're not going to get attacked or anything like that. It just makes for a funny scenario. And failure in D&D can be the best thing, in my opinion. It makes the memories the best memories, and that, for me, is really what it's all about. Because a lot of these kids, unfortunately, not all of them, but there are some who are going to go through school and they're going to look back and go, I hated that place. And that is just the reality of life. But my goal is, did I do everything I could do to create a scenario where they didn't feel that way? And that's what D&D can do. It can create these moments where they just forget about everything. Because empathy now, kindness now has become like some sort of political act, which is unbelievable to me. And I'm not going to go down that road. But empathy and kindness has become this like a divisive word, which is bizarre. But in the school library, in the game like D&D, you can build these scenarios around kindness and empathy. And they know that's why they come in droves. Because we have these amazing older dungeon masters, and I'm running it, and I'm overseeing it, and they know that they're in a safe place. They know they can be themselves, and no one's going to judge them. No one's going to mock them. They can act out their fears and frustrations and anxieties. They can, it's really a healthy place for them to be, and they can look back and go, somebody cared, somebody built this kind of like this system or this program, and it can help them, hopefully. And that's really it to me. I've talked about how it involves a lot of reading. a lot of reading for pleasure and a lot of creative writing. They do a ton. And of course, we have tons of books around D&D. There's so many. And I can always promote them and get them in the hands of the kids. And they devour these books. And what I've done is I basically bought all the manuals, even the, there's newer ones now. I've got them. Very lucky, very fortunate that the school has given me a budget to do this. I've given them all these, and I put them in the library so they can borrow them. And they're always borrowed. They're always out. And what's happened now is that there's a group that comes in, just started probably around November, that this group of year sevens have just made their own group that come in at, because I opened the library very early, 7:15. And if I get there like 7:20, they're waiting for me. And they just have all their D&D stuff, and they're making they like to make characters for fun. And I love it. And they are, it's a ton of creativity. Moral training ground. So as they're growing up, they're learning how to navigate the world. D&D in a safe space can create these scenarios where they are making really severe choices about life or death, but in a very safe way, and other things. And it's just a great way to teach them about the world in many ways. I mean, again, it's not a replacement for therapy. It's not a replacement for, doing things outside of the school, etc. But it is a great, safe way to do these things. So my rambling way of saying that. Now, a lot of these benefits for neurodivergent players overlap 100% with neurotypical players, of course. But there are things that neurodivergent players experience, in my opinion, as a neurodivergent player and dungeon master. There's a lot of things that they experience that maybe can be heightened or exasperated. Say that right? Yeah, I did. And D&D can assist with many of these things, in my opinion. And choice paralysis can be something that some neurodivergent players face, and it helps remove that because the dice removes that paralysis. The dice forces that through in a fun way, right? So you're gonna have to roll the dice to see if you're gonna be able to climb the wall or leap the chasm or kill the dragon or convince the guard that you are allowed into the noble's party, whatever. It fights social isolation, which I've talked about. And again, it can benefit anybody. These third places are disappearing. And a third place is essentially a place like a public library or a game shop where you can go in. These places that are free usually to go into. And that's why school libraries and public libraries, of course, are so, I'm talking to the choir, but it's like, they're so critical because you don't have to pay or you don't have to give up your data to go into, really. I mean, you just have to be a human being and go in these places and get involved with other people. This idea of like meeting other people, again, is also becoming unique as we isolate ourselves on purpose with our phones. Again, it's something that takes all that away, in my opinion. Regulating emotions, we've talked about that. It provides, which I don't have written down, but it provides structure and routine. Now, when I talk to quite a few of the medical, the psychologists and the professionals, they talked about something called behavioral activation, which is a medical kind of way to describe having something to look forward to, which is, again, I guess something I never considered, but of course it is, running it every day. I run it on a Wednesday after school for just 3 students, but around me it's happening with lots of others, if that makes sense. And I mean, it means so much to these 3 students. I can't even describe it really. They look forward to it. They come in every day to make sure that it's going to be on that Wednesday. I can never miss a Wednesday. I can never be ill on a Wednesday. And that's something I should talk about as well when I talk about retention, because when I was running it with my core group of kids who stayed through the whole set of years. If one of them was ill, they would Zoom in, they would like log in or via Teams, and to play. It was amazing to see. So I knew that it was there, for many, it can be a special interest, which is a good thing. Special interests have, there are some negatives that can come with that, with obsessive behaviors and things like that. I'm not a psychologist or anything, or a medical professional, but I do know that can happen. But a special interest for many can be a place of comfort and a place of reduced anxiety. So it has this social connection, has social support. We've had students I've had a student who was one of the students who would simply watch, and not take part. They were somebody who I would consider nonverbal, would usually write on a whiteboard and then present it to you. And then, one day, one of the other students and myself were like, if you want to play, you can just sit at the table. And they would sit at the table and just watch and stuff like that. And it was fine. And I mean, cut to a couple years later, they are running their own campaign, doing voices. And they had a lot of support in the school, but they credited D&D so much so that they wrote I taught a course in the school called, in the UK, is called Extended Project Qualification, where a 16 or 17-year-old student has to write a 6,000 word dissertation. And they wrote it on D&D and how it basically changed their life. And it was amazing. And so I was happy that they had that opportunity to experience that. It had all these things, it has all these things to it that brought these people together in the library and beyond. And it was amazing. So I feel like, I'm repeating myself maybe a little bit, but I want to just get across how powerful it kind of became. And for me, it still is. It's a way to lower anxiety, and it's something I look forward to every week, and working with the kids at the school as well. The boost in self-confidence of a lot of these students is really phenomenal to see as a lot of them evolve into dungeon masters, because a lot of them want to become dungeon masters. And I actually run like a little session on, if you want to be a dungeon master, here you go. We'll meet up, and I just give them tips. I don't consider myself any kind of expert. I've been doing it maybe 6 years or something, or maybe a little longer than that, but maybe 7 years. But it's it's not. I'm just. You're never going to be. There's people who've done it 30 years, and they still will say you have a lot to learn. So there's a lot there that just is absolutely amazing for these kids. Now, I want to talk about D&D at the British Library. So I can't remember 100% how it evolved, to be honest, but just for context, the British Library is one of the largest libraries in the world, and it's, equivalent to the Library of Congress, I guess, in the US, et cetera, et cetera. Every single book published in the UK goes there, and they have a giant archive. I should have had a better picture of the building, but it's in central London, or maybe North London, and it's shaped like a giant ship. It's this huge building, and they've got everything in there. It's amazing to see. And I went there, I think, with a class trip on for something else, and they had a D&D exhibit. I think this is how it evolved, and they had it was a little lackluster, and they admit it was a little lackluster. This D&D exhibit, it was like the history of D&D, which I was fascinated with. And I spoke to somebody working there about it, and eventually, cut to, do you want to run a D&D adventure for neurodivergent youth and their families, like the public, at the British Library? And of course I was like, oh yeah, we can do that. And no clue how this was going to work, but you just say yes and you work it out later. And then it was one of the students, so the student on the far left, who was like, let's do it in the exhibit. The exhibit, as you can see in the banner in the background there, was called Fantasy Exhibit. We went down to check it out, and it was essentially, you would go down there and it's like Tolkien's handwritten notes, C.S. Lewis's handwritten, Terry Pratchett's map, of Discworld. It's got also props from the Lord of the Rings. It's got Ian McKellen's like pipe and Gandalf's hat and stuff like that, but also like fantasy works from way back, 500 plus years, just really old stuff, and it's all on display. And they were like, no, you can't do anything down here, because if anybody touches any of this stuff, we'll all lose our jobs. And I don't know how they did it. The students really did it. They convinced them, this won't work unless we do it in the exhibit. And this is what we did. So they wrote it. They wrote a 4-hour adventure that involved famous characters from fantasy literature. And the idea was that they had to save them, that there was a worm, WYRM, that was eating all the great ideas from the British Library, all the great fantasy stories. And they were eating all the stories, and the world was going to have no stories left. And they had to save the world, save the stories by destroying this dragon, this worm. They wrote 100%. We met with an artist who the British Library hired. They had artwork created around it. I had no clue. Anybody who works in the public, for the public, if you run something that you open up to the public, it's always, God, how corny is it? It's always a roll of the dice. How corny. I'll be up at 3 a.m. thinking about that horrible joke, but it is a roll of the dice. And because you might get 0 people signing up, and it's just the way it is. We created it. They created a little artwork around it. They put it out online, and it was booked solid in about 2 hours. And when I told the students this, they were so excited. And it was a really kind of it was the highlight of my career, to be honest, as a librarian. I think I don't think I've had a moment like it. So we go there, they shut the exhibit down. This is an exhibit that draws people from all over the world. Exhibits from all over the world, people from all over the world. And they shut it down just for these people who booked it. Free tickets, although I should mention, it's all free. And just us. And there were people who were, I'm not upset, but people were like, why can't we go in the exhibits? Like, well, these kids want to run this thing. And me. And it was, again, to go down, you got to go down these stairs. It's really, I'm sorry I don't have any photos, but it's so dark down there because they have such old material that it's, you can't really take photos. It's really tricky. So to have it completely booked, I think there was about 50 people, because we had to set tables all around the exhibit. It was really tricky. And to have parents come up with tears in their eyes to me to say, I've never seen my son or daughter so involved in something. Usually they can't sit still. We aimed it. We test run. We did test runs in my library to see how it would work. We really put a million hours into this thing, and it was all aimed at neurodivergent youth, so they could, if you wanted to get up and walk around, take a break. We took, it was everything was thought out very carefully, and had a great help from different people who were all involved, British Library and external people, and it was a massive success. So we've been doing this now 3 years running. So we did it for a fantasy exhibit and medieval women, where they had to save Joan of Arc. That was it. That was the thing they created. It was amazing. That was last year, and then we're doing it again this year. Or we done it again this year around secret maps, which was amazing. And then we're doing it again in May for their fairy tale exhibit. So it was really great. And to see, we've had parents come up and say, we're visiting from Pennsylvania, and this has been the best thing we've done in London, which says something. That was a huge thing to me to hear that. And the feedback has been amazing. So, and obviously hilarious because they love the students. There's often the same students booking every year, and they get to see some of our same students. And there's one of our students named Henry, and they're like, we want Henry. He lets us commit arson. I was like, okay, well, I won't. I'll just turn my head around the other way because it's all safe, guys. It's all safe, safe environment. But it's a lot of fun, and it's just something very wholesome. So then that spilled over into these other opportunities. So we ran for Lewisham Libraries. We ran, which is like a series of public libraries in East London. We ran this part of their Imagine Worlds program, and again, created 100% by students, and they developed their own adventure. It was like completely booked again. We had live music. I don't know how they found these people, but it was like they had 2 people playing D&D style like tavern music, and they were dressed up, and I did nothing to do with it, but it just created this great ambience. It was amazing. Students have been wrote their own adventure, and it was completely booked, and it was so popular that it launched D&D for this whole series of public libraries, which hadn't really run it before. And they won an award from this. There's the biggest kind of book publisher system in the UK. It's called the Bookseller, and they run this book awards every year, and they've opened it up to public libraries, and it won. The Lewisham Libraries won an award as part of this D&D thing, and it was amazing. They are really creative, and they've stuck together through it all. They've completely stuck together. I mean, it's really been phenomenal, and it's just growing and growing and growing. I've had students tell me that D&D has been the best thing that they've ever experienced. I've had parents tell me that D&D is the reason that their kids go to school. What I've also found is that in the school system, a lot of staff, a lot of teachers are secret D&D nerds, and they'll come out of the woodwork and play if you just talk about it. And I don't shut up about it. I mean, it's been amazing. It's just been this thing that's just steamrolled in a completely positive way. And now I'll run it a couple times a week, and I've got older students running it. It's like I said, almost every single day. So D&D, as I said, is all about the idea of like mistakes are a good thing. It's all about making mistakes in a safe way. Really, a lot of it is. And if you have the right person kind of like at the helm, in my opinion, it can be a really powerful tool. So I'll end on a note that was handed to me before a student. It's going to be a lot of text on the screen. I apologize about that, but I wanted to put it there because the note is handwritten, and I carry it around in my bag, the bag that I take to work. And it means a lot to me. It was handed to me by a student who left the school to go to university, and it was one of those situations, typical, where they just kind of like, here, and they hand you this note and then walk away really fast. And I opened it up, and it was this. So I'll read it to you. Try to get through it. So it says, hopefully that's a lot of text, but to Mr. Maxwell, D&D has changed my life, and that is all because of you. Having this space during COVID kept me going when I was really struggling with my mental health. It honestly might have saved my life. You've dealt with me from my most annoying to least, and even when I stepped out of line, you never made me feel unwelcome because of it. On bad days, the library became a lifeline for me. When I felt like school was too much, I had somewhere that I wasn't going to be judged or belittled. I will remember the last 5 years for the rest of my life. DMing for my group, doing charity events, and working at the British Library are some of my proudest achievements. And they've only happened because of the work you put in to all the awful admin stuff so we can do the fun, creative bits. Thank you for trusting me all those years ago when I started my D&D group. Thank you for making me part of something special. All my closest friends I have now, are because of D&D, and you are the reason I became so passionate about it. You have inspired me to see the world differently, to get along with people I never could before, to dream bigger for myself. Seeing you work so hard and achieve so much has given me hope that things can change and get better, that the things I do matter. I might see you a lot less, but you already know I'm following you on Instagram. Don't call the police. I'm rooting for you all the way. I think a part of me will always miss the library. Thank you for everything. So that to me means a lot, of course, and it's that's it. Like that's the reason why we do it, and that's it really for me. And that's my talk. I want to thank you for listening to that. Hopefully I didn't mumble ramble too much, but I want to again, thank everyone at Dalhousie for this opportunity. I want to thank you for listening to this. And I will, if there are questions, I will answer any questions anybody has. Hopefully I can answer them. But yeah, thank you so much. I think you're muted, Dr. Toes. Sorry.
Of course I am, because we have to play that out on a large stage. I was clapping and just taking a moment to absorb everything you said and to say thank you. I just love sort of the passion that shows through and everything you've done. And I love, how much it is about allowing the students to really come into their own. And before we turn to questions, I guess I just wanted to comment, because you said something that's always resonated so much with my approach to life, which is say yes and then work it out later. But just wanted to give you a chance to elaborate on that. Has that always worked for you, or have you been where you said yes and then thought, what am I doing?
I don't, if there are younger people starting their career or working, never follow my path, because I've made a career out of, doing this stuff, doing it and then apologizing for it. Yeah, sorry, I'll do doing all the paperwork later. It's, and again, that's just been the way, but no, it's not always worked out, because you can trip up, of course. And, but fortunately, I have been very, very grateful because the intent is there to do the good thing, and you just want it to be done so well. And you don't, maybe as someone who I struggle sometimes with the admin side of things. So if you don't see that aspect working out in behind the scenes, you can forget it or ignore it. So I don't recommend following my steps, but it has worked out. Yeah, overall, it has worked out for me. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I'm just going through there are lots of comments and questions here.
Of course.
And so many people, are also, just to let you know, when you get a chance to look at this, so many people are just thanking you for your talk and for everything you've done. But we'll bring this question up. Lucas, you've already talked about some standout library D&D moments like the British Library, but are there other moments you can share with us that really stick in your memory?
Sure. Non-D&D moments, for sure. So for D&D moments, running the Saturday dungeon cons have been absolutely amazing. And the Saturday events for D&D style, they've been amazing to bring students in. But for me, non-D&D related, we run many different programs, tons of different programs that have been going for 12, I've been there, 12 years now. Some of them didn't, some of them have been going since I've been there in 2013. And some of them are like our comic book / manga club that has gone basically every Thursday at lunchtime for 12 years. And I can get 40, 50 kids in, and it's just been really great to see. And I'm very passionate about that as well, because comic books, manga, these style, there's still, especially in the UK, in my opinion, there's still a lot of people who look down on that style of reading and go, it's not real reading, etc. And of course, we know that's not true. It is absolutely reading. Actually involves more readings in some ways than other novels. So it has been a really amazing kind of program. So I'm very, very proud of that, and very proud of things like getting involved in our mock trial team, where our students get a fake kind of court case, and we get to take them around the country to compete against other schools. And we've done really well. We've gone to the national final a few times. And I'm very proud of that and proud of those students. So it's been, there's been lots of standout moments like that. But yeah, good question.
Okay, the next question is from Lindsay Warner. Do you have experience running games with mixed age groups, teens and adults, or do you have thoughts on how that might work?
So with the school setting, the ages range, because in the UK, there's not really junior highs or middle schools. So the high school, quote unquote, will usually incorporate ages 11 to 18, 11 to 19. And that creates these scenarios where we'll have like a 17-year-old and 18-year-old running a game for a group of 11-year-olds. And again, running beside me just today, if not too many hours ago, were two 16-year-olds running it for a group of year 7s. And it's chaos, but they are in charge and they're next to me, kind of like on the table there. So the experience, I do have experience managing them, and I do have experience having many different age groups, not just D&D, but for instance, the manga club we don't all read the same books, comic books, etc., because that group will have ages 11 to 17 in it. So it's really difficult to have the same book. So what we do is do activities around these books, because they're reading them at home at lunch, break time, etc., and they fly through them as well. So yeah, I do have experience, and what I would say is I have created a bank of resources running D&D and other programs with different ages. And I should have put on the slides, stupidly I didn't, my contact details, but I would recommend, if anybody wants to get in touch with me to say, do you have anything that you could share? I would be more than happy to share any resources that I have. Not sure how that would work. Yeah, please.
I think in the chat they did share earlier some of your resources, but we can certainly make sure that people are given that as well.
Yeah.
Next question is, it sounds like the students who are writing adventures for your group are doing this just for fun. I wonder if creating a D&D adventure might be a good template for an assignment for a course.
That would be amazing to me. I wish, for me in the high school, that would attribute to the EPQ, the extended project qualification, where they do either a dissertation or what they call here, like what they call an artifact, which is basically a project. It could be anything. So that's where it would take off. I think once my next group of students get into that phase of EPQ writing, you've just given me a great idea to do that for the artifact, because that's right. It would be amazing. They do create their own mini campaigns, but they're more like one shots that don't progress past 2 or 3 sessions, and then they fall back on different things. But yeah, to write a campaign, it takes a lot. It's really hard. It takes a lot of work, and it would be an amazing course. I 100% agree. And I think I'll try to incorporate that. But yeah, I agree 100%. It would be great.
Next question is, you've touched on this briefly, but if I wanted to make this grow in my area, which is at Cumbria in England, what would your advice be?
So if you're thinking in the public area, it is a challenge because of the closure of public libraries. But if you are lucky to still have a public library open in your area, I would approach them, because, like I said, the whole Lewisham area didn't have any D&D games running at all. And they saw our work in the British Library. They reached out to me, and I was like, "This, absolutely, we can adapt this." And now it's running throughout the whole system based on our students getting involved, and it has touched all kinds of people and reached all kinds of people. So my advice is, if you have a public library, that would be the #1 place to start. And if you're in a school setting, we've done a lot of work where these students who are on the screen there the last picture, we reached out to other schools and did little sessions on how to get it started in your school. So we were doing virtual sessions. I'd be happy to as well incorporate our students into speaking to you if you work in a school. But yeah, my advice would be to reach out to your public library. Hopefully that would work. It's not easy though. Ooh.
And then we're going a little further afield now. How can we have our kids involved here in Nova Scotia? Are you aware of any groups or communities doing the same thing?
So unfortunately, I haven't been involved in Nova Scotian libraries for 12, 13 years, but I'm sure Halifax Public Libraries must be running something. And if you aren't in the Halifax area, because I know not everyone lives in the Halifax area, if there is a public library near you, that would be the place to look. But I'm really sorry, I don't know. There are some board game shops. I know in the last time we were we were home. We were in Yarmouth, and there were some board game shops, I believe, there that had that were running things like that. So that would be the place to start. I'm sorry that I don't have a concrete answer for that.
Someone else is mentioning the Halifax Public Libraries are running a couple of D&D programs for teens, Sackville, Sheet Harbor, and Captain William Spry libraries. And I think we will take it on ourselves as a program to connect people and to make sure that,
I assume they would. Yeah. I assume they would.
Excellent.
For sure.
Excellent.
Right. Thank you.
Lucas, did you plan on crediting me for the appearance of Lord Stoneface and the crochet dragon on your fantastic slides?
One of the slides was crocheted by an author here in the UK, Alex Faggs, who I play D&D with on a weekly basis. I apologize, Alex, for that, but I didn't credit you. It is Lord Stoneface, the crochet dragon. That is.
I did notice that crochet dragon, though. So
they're always on display whenever we have any kind of event.
And just, this was actually before my time, but Boyd Holmes is mentioning that Larry Amy was a professor here in the library school for many, many years. He was quite devoted to school libraries and his scholarship. He would have been retired by the time you were a student. Okay. But are you familiar with his scholarship? I'm thinking in particular his doctorate on adolescent reading at U of T.
I am not, but I'm sorry, I don't know that one at all, but I could look into that. But thank you for making me aware of it. I'm sorry, I'm not aware of it at all, shamefully.
That's okay. It's good to hear that, this thread has run through the program and through people here. Yeah. So it's exciting to see that.
Yeah.
Merly Bird is saying, yes, I help run the Sackville program. Excited to take back some of these insights and ideas to my branch. So
very good.
We're having a global impact here. HalCon is an annual sci-fi, fantasy, and gaming convention in Halifax, and they always have so many opportunities to play games throughout the whole weekend.
Amazing. And thank you. Yeah, so I'm always, as I said, I'm always open to being in contact with anyone and sharing any ideas. I see that people shared the website, Bookshelves and Bugbears, earlier. Thank you very much for that. And thank you. Yeah, all my contact details there. Fantastic resource called Critical Core. Yes, I should mention, I also, I don't know how I forgot to talk about it, but whenever there's if you just Google it, it's called Safety Tools, which I really recommend when you're working with youth in D&D. And all safety tools they can be as kind of complex or as simple as you need. I should have mentioned them. And essentially, before you start, you kind of find out from your players things that they really don't want mentioned or brought up. And that could be things that you might not be considering. So it's just a way to make sure everyone feels comfortable and safe playing the game. And if you just Google safety tools there, I shamefully forgot the author's name, but there's free resources. And there's things like cards they can hold up. They don't want you talking about things. And they can send, these can come up organically. So we've had instances where some students simply don't want, when you're in a dungeon or whatever, they don't want to talk about or have spiders all over the place. They don't like them. They have an intense dislike or fear, and it makes them feel whatever. And it's not a big deal to remove it. You can always incorporate something else, if that makes sense. So you as a DM, just getting to know your players, incorporating these tools can be, just makes everyone happy. And it's really easy to do, to be honest. So just something I should have mentioned at the start, to be honest.
No, it's a great tip for many things in life.
Yeah.
And just, as you're sort of thinking over this, when you were back here in library school, did you imagine this was going to be your future?
to be talking about, no. I mean, D&D always, like I said, it was always in the periphery because I was always reading the books and stuff like that. I never got to play that much as a youth, but now that I'm older, I do, and it does make a big difference to me, in my opinion. I look forward to it every week, and I never dreamed in a million years that I would be leading a lecture on it. And so it's amazing to me. I'm really excited to do it. So thank you again.
Well, and it is so exciting to think about doing this at the British Library. It's such a,
Yeah.
monumental building there. So
Yeah.
excellent. Any last questions?
Might be one there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What leadership choices helped ensure the D&D program stayed safe and inclusive as it evolved and expanded?
So if you're thinking of leadership choices above me, I'm really lucky and grateful that that the senior leadership team essentially gave me full kind of like just control over the program. They never told me don't do this or don't do that. I'm extremely grateful for that and lucky that they give me that kind of freedom and a budget, which is like every librarian's dream,
Budget? What is that?
I know. It's like giving you the money and then giving you the freedom to try different things. And the D&D is like, they know it's a huge success. And I've had the head teacher, / principal come in during the dungeon cons and on a Saturday to see the impact that it's had. And she would point out students that she knew in her mind that maybe were, not trouble, but like where's kids like, oh, I didn't think that student would be sitting for that long doing, it's just like surprising. And it's like, this is the impact the game has. And I'm really lucky that I have such support. So the choices that, the other question I see coming up is how do you convince the SLT this is an excellent idea? I am very lucky that I didn't have to do too much of that because they've been so supportive from day one. But the choices that I made is, and again, I didn't go into it because I didn't want to get too involved in the nuts and bolts of a session, but there's something that you run called session 0, which is a session that happens with your students before the actual playing starts. And that's where you can make characters together. Also incorporate the safety tools where you go, okay, and they might not want to talk about it in that moment, but you can say, these are the things that this campaign is going to cover. And it might be things, I'm thinking of one that I've run with adults and other people. It's like freezing temperatures, different types of D&D involves a lot of fun, etc. But the reality is there is death involved, of course. So they're fighting monsters and they're trying to get treasure and complete quests. So you have to be aware that there are many triggers and things that some students that you might not think are going to be a big deal, but that a student might be really anxious about talking about. Falling from heights, claustrophobic things, different things that are common in D&D adventures, but maybe you can easily remove if you just know it. And the safety tools involve things like little cards, like X cards and O cards. So an X card might be held up by a student if they think, please, can you move on now? Don't talk about what you're talking about now. If they're talking about like enclosed space, an O card, a green card could be held up. It's like, I really like this topic. Can you dive into it more? And that has happened with our students when we talk about things like frogs and things like that. They had a student who really enjoyed that topic and swamps and frogs and the creatures within. So they held up the card and I was like, oh, so I just incorporated more stuff for that student. But the choices really are about getting to know your players, and that takes time, and that is very important. So, and to convince the SLT, I think the way to approach it, we're very lucky in the UK that I've never had any issue from parents. I'll say that, and then something tomorrow will be I'll get an email for you. Never
I'm
had
knocking on wood for you.
I never had any issues at all. And when they see how popular it is, and when I talk about it, they see that if we run I go back to the Saturday events, and 8 teachers have taken their Saturday off to get involved. They see that that's convincing them. But that's easy for me to sit here and say. But I think you can convince them by talking about how it's anti-screen. If your school does allow screens, it's anti-screen. You could say there's no screens at the table if your school does allow them. You can make that rule as a DM, and you can see how it increases confidence and reduces anxiety over time. But yeah, it is hard sometimes, and not everyone has the support I have. That's something I've learned the hard way by kind of meeting other librarians, not the hard way, but meeting other librarians around the country. And I've been really grateful for that. Speaking at conferences, you realize that a lot of them don't have the support that I've had, I guess, in that, and I don't always have the answers for that. Sorry. But yeah, I don't know if there's any other questions, but again, thank you. I am very grateful for this opportunity.
Well, thank you so much, Lucas, and we'll give you another round of applause. Just so many things to think about and bring forward. So yeah, we really appreciate this, and it's so exciting to see how people are doing such important work. And as we're talking about all sort of the fractures in society right now, opportunities to hear of positive stories like this is just so fabulous. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Thanks again, everyone. Thank you so much.
As I mentioned, this event has a couple different goals. So certainly we wanted to bring a fantastic and informative conversation to you all, which we've done. But next we would like to honor our Horrocks recipient as well. And I've already spoken about Dr. Horrocks and the huge impact. But what's also exciting is we've been able to continue our relationship with his family. So Sarah Horrocks, who I'm now going to introduce, is of course also a key part of our community. So she has so many fond memories as a child of being part of this community and program. But then she thankfully decided to join us for her Master of Information Management, which she completed with us. And I will now bring Sarah forward to recognize Kelty McGlone, who is our 2025 recipient of the Dalhousie Horrocks National Leadership Award.
Thank you, Sandra. It's lovely to be here on behalf of the family. My sister Annie and I look forward to this event every year. You are correct. I grew up on the third floor of the Killam Library, as did my sister. I knew Larry Amy quite well. He always had the best young adult books, often before they were fully released. So we always got to read them at home. So that was a lovely little reminder of the community that was part of the faculty. And
I'm just going to jump in because I think he did start. We've had a long-running newsletter for centered around books and children, and I believe he started it and has been running since then. So
it's very possible, yeah. So I really appreciated being invited here. I loved the talk, Lucas. It was lovely to hear the memories of Dad, and we always enjoy hearing the great recipient. The Dalhousie picks a wonderful recipient every year to carry the Leadership Award. So, Kelty, congratulations. In reading your bio, I saw that there were lots of similarities that you share with Dad. The one thing that jumped out, obviously, is your interest in helping those less fortunate and those who are underserved. And then I saw that you were part of both the Canadian and the American Law Library Association. So, that would have been a huge, Dad would have been a huge supporter of that. He loved to network and make connections at those types of events. So anyway, congratulations once again on behalf of myself and the family, and wishing you all the best in your future endeavors in the spring when you graduate. Thanks, everybody.
I just wanted to say a couple of words. I want to express my sincere gratitude to Sarah and the rest of the Horrocks family, as well as the whole Department of Information Science for selecting me for this award. The Master of Information program has completely changed my life. To put it pretty briefly, I would not have gotten nearly as much out of my time at law school without studying information science and vice versa. So the really unique opportunities presented by the MI program have given me the confidence to pursue my dream of becoming a law librarian. I'm so appreciative of all the support that I've received from the department and its alumni, and receiving this award is just one of the many examples of that support. So thank you so much again. And also thank you so much again to Lucas for the wonderful lecture this afternoon. As somebody who loves playing D&D, I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, Kelty, and again, congratulations. We do have many extraordinary students, but Kelty is one of our best. So just wanted to do a couple closing things. First of all, as Lucas had mentioned earlier, there are a lot of people literally with this virtual setup behind the scenes. So I wanted to give special thanks to Kim Humes, Nicole Monsell, and our alumni team led by Shelley Lamore, who always do so much to allow us to run this so seamlessly. So thank you very much to everyone. I do also just want to remind you that the details of the Horrocks Award and how to contribute will be displayed in a few minutes. So please do consider this, because it allows us, as we know in these times of budget austerity, it's so important that we have the support from our alumni to bring excellent opportunities like this. Please also do stay tuned to the Faculty of Management and the Department of Information Science websites for upcoming lectures. And it's just so exciting always to see so many of our alumni from very, very different years and geographically in different places come together for this. So thanks once again to all involved. Thank you, Lucas, for a truly passionate and inspiring talk.